Hey, it's Mr. Keys, and today we're going to talk about creating chord progressions. The chord progression that you use to create a song or a beat is extremely important. The chords you choose will determine the overall mood of the song. Do you want it to sound happy, sad, intense, aggressive? There are more factors to consider other than the chords that we choose, but chords are one of the most important factors in achieving a certain mood in your song. For this video, the length of each chord will always be 4 beats long, but you'll see later on that chords can take any different length. I'll also be using a Logic Pro 10 feature called Drummer to quickly create some beats. Let's talk a little bit about starting chords. Good chords to begin a phrase with in the key of C major are C major, which is the 1 chord, D minor, the 2 chord, F major, the 4 chord, and A minor, the 6 chord. If we start on the 3 chord, which is E minor, the 5 chord, which is G major, or the 7 chord, which is B diminished, it can have a weird effect. So for now, avoid them as starting chords. There are exceptions to these rules, of course, but for now, we will not start a phrase with those 3 chords. After the starting chord, for all of your subsequent chords, feel free to use the 1 chord, 2 chord, 3 chord, 4 chord, 5 chord, or 6 chord. We'll leave out the 7 chord, which is B diminished, because it can be very strange, and in most pop music, it's typically not used. This doesn't mean that there are no uses for the 7 chord, because it's used in many songs, but we're not going to look at those type of songs right now. Let's create a phrase. You can think of a phrase in music as a musical sentence. Phrases are generally 4 bars in length. Also note that each bar has 4 beats. We can make a passage repeat in Logic by turning on the cycle tool. Let's take a look at how the pros choose their chords by analyzing a couple super popular songs. Keep in mind that none of these examples will sound exact because I'm not creating the entire beat, nor can I play the original just because of copyright issues. At the same time, I want them to be in C major so that you can play along with this if you want. I'll be transposing these songs into the key of C from whatever key that they're originally in. Transposing means to change from one key to another. Let's take a look at the song called Down by Jay Sean. The chords are 4, 6, 5, and 3. Each chord is 4 beats long. Here's what it sounds like. Six, 5, 3, 4, 6, 5, and 3. We're also going to take a look at One Dance by Drake. The chords are 6, 1, 2, and then 2 again. Each chord is 4 beats long. Here's what it sounds like. 6, 1, 2, and 2. All right, so for the last thing today, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at this website called hooktheory.com. The URL is www.hooktheory.com/trends. Okay, the important thing about this website is that, first off, it allows us to select what key we want to play in. So in this case, we're looking at C major, so we'll just keep it as C. And then you can see that it has a bunch of these little circles over here. And what this is going to allow us to do is it's going to allow us to select chords, and it's going to tell us statistically how often certain chord patterns are being used. And this is not just overall, this is in popular songs. So when you're creating your chord progression, what you can do is you can select certain chords and see how popular they are, because the popularity is going to tell you if they work together or not. So let's take a look at our first one. Let's use one of our starting chords that we've spoken about. Okay, so let's start with C major. As soon as I click this, it's going to show me the most probable chords to go to from C major. Now it says up here that they've gone through about 8,000 songs, and out of the 8,000 songs, 64% contain the C chord, which is also known as the one chord. Okay, so that doesn't really tell us that much, but you'll notice that it also shows us a bunch of songs that will have the one chord in them. Okay, so that's kind of useless. It's useless until we choose another chord. So let's say I decide to choose G major. Now, these chords that are attached to C major, these are the chords that we can go to. So let's say I want to go from C to G, or from C to A, or from C to F, C to other. Now, these are chords that don't belong to the key of C major, C to D. Now, you can notice that the 3 chord, E minor, is not here. And that's partially because it's not one of the common chords that we would necessarily go to from C. So more than likely, it's probably part of the other category. All right, so let's go to G. So I'm going to click on G. So now we've gone from C to G, and it updates the list of songs. And we can see that 22% of songs contain C to G at some part in the song. Now, this could be the verse or the chorus, and it doesn't mean that any of those sections start with C. It just means at some point it has C to G. So when you're doing this, you should do it in the sense that you're trying to create a chord progression. So in this case, I'm assuming that I'm going to start with C, and I'm going to go to G next, and then the percentages will change. It will tell me the most common thing to go to after I go to G. And the most common thing to go to is A minor, which is the 6th chord. Now, before we even do that, what you can do also is if you wanted to click on one of these songs, let's say Set Fire to the Rain by Adele, it's going to come up with this little diagram here. And let me explain how this works. So first of all, it's telling us that we're looking at the verse, and here are the chords for the verse. And we can see that here we have our C to G progression. Now, remember, C to G are not, this is not the first chord. This is the 2nd chord for the verse. The verse actually starts with A minor, then it goes to C, then it goes to G, then D minor, then A minor, then C, and then G again. These blocks, the colored blocks, indicate how many beats each chord is. So we can see that A minor is 1 block, 2 blocks, 3 blocks, and then half a block right here. So it's 3.5 beats. The C major chord is a full bar, so 4 beats, plus this little half in the previous bar. Okay, and it goes on like that. Let's take a look at Someone Like You, also by Adele. So this is the verse, and the verse also has C to G. The chord progression goes C, G, A minor, F, and we can also see the numbers underneath. And that's the progression that goes throughout the verse. We can also play it, and it will play back what the song sounds like. 2 beats per chord. And that's it. All right, so we can choose a 3rd chord. So it's telling us that A minor is the most common one that happens after C going to G. So I'm going to click on this. And now it tells us how many songs will contain this pattern. The more chords it contains, the less songs it will match. So these are all the songs that have a C to a G to an A minor. So for example, if I look at Grenade by Bruno Mars, it's going to show us the chorus. And we can see, oh, look, we have C to G to A, and they're 2 beats each. The chorus, however, starts with A minor. So A, F, C, G, A, F, C, G, A, F, C, G, A, F, C, G, and then it changes a little bit down here. Okay, so that's a little bit about how this website works. It's actually pretty useful when you're creating your own chord progressions.